The church was suffocating, the air thick with grief and judgment. Alex stood at the front, his hands trembling as he clutched the edge of the pew, eyes fixed on the polished mahogany casket that held David, his husband, his anchor. Whispers slithered through the congregation like venom. Each one a blade, gold digger, opportunist. He never loved him. He was 28, David 45, and their 17-year age gap had always been a spark for gossip in the affluent Connecticut suburb where David's family reigned like quiet royalty. The Thompsons were old money, their name etched into the town's history libraries. Charities. Even the hospital wing bore their crest. Alex, a former barista with no pedigree, was an outsider from the start, his love for David dismissed as a calculated grab for wealth. Now, with David gone, the whispers had turned to accusations, and the funeral was their stage. Alex's throat tightened as he scanned the room. David's sister, Margaret, sat in the front row, her lips a thin line of disdain. His brother, Richard, leaned toward her, muttering something that made her nod sharply. Behind them, neighbors and business associates filled the pews, their faces a mix of pity and suspicion. Alex wanted to scream that he'd loved David fiercely, that their late-night talks about art, their shared dreams of a quiet life by the coast, were worth more than any inheritance. But words felt useless against the weight of their stares. He'd met David 3 years ago at a local art gallery, a chance encounter over a painting of a stormy sea. Alex, scraping by on tips and dreams of becoming an artist, had been captivated by David's quiet intensity, the way his gray eyes seemed to see through the canvas and into Alex's soul. David, a successful architect, had been drawn to Alex's raw passion, his unpolished honesty. Their first date lasted until dawn, words flowing like a river, and by the end of the year, they were married in a small ceremony under the stars, despite the Thompson family's icy disapproval. Now, standing in the church, Alex felt the absence of that warmth like a physical wound. The priest's voice droned on, but Alex barely heard it. His mind replayed their last morning together, David's laugh as he burned the toast, the way he'd pulled Alex close and whispered, "You're my home." A heart attack had stolen him hours later, sudden and merciless. Alex hadn't even had time to say goodbye. The service ended, and the crowd spilled into the reception hall. Alex lingered by the casket, touching the wood as if it could tether him to David one last time. Margaret approached, her heels clicking sharply on the floor. "You don't belong here," she said, her voice low but venomous. "You never did." Alex met her gaze, his voice steady despite the ache in his chest. "I loved him, Margaret, more than you'll ever understand." She scoffed, turning away. "We'll see what the will says about that." The words hung like a guillotine. David's family had always assumed Alex was after his fortune, and now they expected the will to confirm their suspicions, or so they hoped. Alex didn't care about the money. He'd give it all to have David back. But as he faced the crowd, their eyes boring into him, he felt a flicker of defiance. He'd prove them wrong, not for himself, but for the love they'd shared. The lawyer, a gray-haired man named Mr. Ellison, had scheduled the will reading for the next day. Alex dreaded it, knowing it would be a battlefield. He left the church and drove to their small apartment, the one David had insisted on keeping despite his wealth because it felt like theirs. Photos lined the walls, David grinning at the beach, Alex sketching in the park, their hands intertwined. Alex sank onto the couch, clutching David's favorite scarf. Its faint cedar sent a cruel reminder of what he'd lost. Sleep eluded him that night. He thought of David's strength, his unwavering belief in Alex's art, how he'd funded Alex's first gallery show without a second thought. The memory steeled him. Whatever the will held, Alex would face it with the same courage David had always seen in him. The next morning, he arrived at the lawyer's office, a sleek building in downtown Hartford. The Thompson family was already there, Margaret and Richard seated like judges, their cousins and aunts filling the room with barely concealed anticipation. Mr. Ellison cleared his throat, adjusting his glasses. "Let's begin," he said, opening the folder. Alex braced himself, heart pounding. He didn't know what David had left him, but he knew one thing. The truth of their love was worth more than any dollar amount. As Mr. Ellison began to read, the room fell silent, and Alex felt the weight of every eye on him. Mr. Ellison's voice was steady, cutting through the tension like a knife. "To my beloved husband, Alexander James Carter," he began, and Alex felt the air shift, every head turning toward him. "I leave the entirety of my personal estate, including all liquid assets, my architectural firm, and our shared properties, to be held in trust for his sole benefit." A gasp rippled through the room. Margaret's face drained of color, her hands gripping the arms of her chair. Richard leaned forward, his jaw tight. "There must be a mistake," he said, his voice sharp. David wouldn't. Mr. Ellison raised a hand, silencing him. "There's more," he continued. "David also bequeaths his family's estate in Greenwich, including the Thompson Manor, to Alexander, with the condition that it be preserved as a community arts center in perpetuity." Alex's breath caught. The manor, a sprawling colonial worth millions, was the Thompson family's crown jewel. David had often spoken of turning it into a space for local artists, a dream they'd shared during late-night talks. But to make it reality and to leave it to him, Alex's chest ached with love and loss, the weight of David's trust overwhelming. Margaret stood, her voice trembling with fury. "This is absurd. He married David for his money, and now he's stealing our legacy." Her eyes locked on Alex. Venomous. "You manipulated him. You preyed on his loneliness." Alex's hands clenched into fists, but he kept his voice calm. "I loved him, Margaret. I didn't ask for this. I didn't even know." "Liar," she spat, turning to Mr. Ellison. "We'll contest this." David wasn't in his right mind. The lawyer's expression remained impassive. "Mrs. Thompson, the will was notarized 6 months ago, with a full medical evaluation confirming David's sound mind. Contesting it will be challenging." Richard leaned toward Margaret, whispering fiercely, but Alex caught fragments: legal fees, public scandal, family name. The cousins exchanged uneasy glances, their confidence wavering. Alex felt like he was watching a chessboard, every move calculated, every piece poised to strike. Mr. Ellison continued, detailing smaller bequests, charitable donations, funds for David's employees, but the room's focus remained on Alex. He felt exposed, a target in a game he hadn't chosen to play. When the reading ended, Margaret stormed out, Richard trailing her, leaving a wake of murmurs. Alex stayed, his mind reeling. The manor, the firm, the money, it was too much. He didn't want it. Not without David. Outside, the autumn air was crisp, the leaves a blaze of red and gold. Alex walked to his car, his steps heavy. A young woman approached Lila, David's assistant, her eyes red from crying. "He loved you so much," she said softly. "He talked about you all the time, how you made him feel alive again." Alex swallowed hard, nodding. "Thank you," he whispered. Lila's words were a lifeline, a reminder that David's love was real, no matter what his family believed. Back at the apartment, Alex sat at David's desk, surrounded by blueprints and sketches. He found a letter tucked in a drawer. David's handwriting bold and familiar. Alex, if you're reading this, I'm gone. Don't let them break you. You're stronger than their hate. Keep painting. Keep loving. Keep being you. The manor is your canvas, now make it ours. Tears blurred Alex's vision. David had planned this, knowing the storm it would unleash. The manor wasn't just a gift. It was a challenge, a way to honor their love and defy the Thompsons' scorn. Alex wiped his eyes, resolve hardening. He'd fight for it, not for the money, but for what it represented. The next day, Margaret called, her voice cold. We're meeting with our lawyers. You won't get away with this. Alex didn't argue. He hung up, knowing the battle was just beginning. He drove to the manor, its ivy-covered walls looming like a fortress. Inside, it was frozen in time antique furniture, family portraits, a legacy of exclusion. Alex imagined it transformed, easels in the halls, laughter echoing, artists finding a home where he and David had once dreamed. But the Thompsons weren't done. Richard cornered him at a coffee shop days later, his tone deceptively calm. Walk away. Alex, take a payout and disappear. You don't want this fight. Alex met his gaze, unflinching. I'm not going anywhere. This was David's wish. Richard's smile was thin. We'll see. The weeks after the will reading were a blur of legal letters and veiled threats. The Thompsons hired a high-powered attorney, claiming David had been coerced, his judgment clouded by Alex's influence. Alex, meanwhile, found an ally in Mr. Ellison, who quietly recommended a lawyer named Sarah Klein, a fierce advocate for underdogs. Sarah met Alex at a diner, her sharp eyes scanning the documents. They're fishing, she said, sipping her coffee. No evidence, just noise. But they'll drag this out to wear you down. Alex nodded, exhaustion creeping in. He hadn't painted since David's death, his sketchbook untouched. The Manor project consumed him meetings with architects, local artists, and community leaders who were intrigued by David's vision but wary of the Thompson name. Alex felt like an imposter, a kid from nowhere tasked with reshaping a legacy. Yet every time doubt crept in, he'd reread David's letter, its words a steadying hand. Margaret escalated the war publicly, leaking stories to the local press. Headlines screamed, "Young husband inherits millions." Family cries foul. The articles painted Alex as a schemer, twisting his barista past into a caricature of ambition. Strangers stared at him in the grocery store, their whispers echoing the Thompsons' accusations. Alex avoided social media, but Lila sent him screenshots of ex-posts, some defending him, others vicious. One read, "He seduced a lonely old man for cash." Disgusting. The cruelty stung, but Alex refused to hide. He started attending community meetings, pitching the art center idea. At one, a woman named Clara, a sculptor with gray streaks in her hair, stood up. "David came to my gallery openings," she said. "He believed in art, not status. If he chose Alex, I trust his judgment." Others nodded, and Alex felt a spark of hope. Not everyone believed the lies. Still, the Thompsons' pressure was relentless. Richard showed up at the manor one evening, his car idling in the driveway. "You're not one of us," he said, his voice low. "You'll ruin our name." Alex stood his ground, the manor's silhouette behind him. "It's not about your name," he replied. "It's about David's dream." Richard's eyes narrowed. "You'll regret this." The threat lingered as Alex threw himself into the project. He met with contractors, sketching plans for studios and exhibition spaces. The manor's transformation felt like a rebellion, each step a defiance of the Thompsons' control. But late at night, alone in their apartment, grief ambushed him. He'd find David's old sweater and hold it, sobbing for the man who'd seen him when no one else did. Sarah called with news. The Thompsons had filed a formal challenge, claiming undue influence. The court date was set for 3 months out. "They're banking on you folding," she said. "Don't." Alex promised he wouldn't. But the weight was crushing. He visited David's grave, a simple stone in a quiet cemetery. "I'm trying," he whispered. "I hope I'm making you proud." A breakthrough came unexpectedly. Lila found a box of David's journals in the firm's storage, filled with entries about Alex's laughter, his sketches, their plans for the manor. One entry read, "Alex is my heart. They'll never understand. But I don't care. He's my forever." Alex clutched the journal, tears falling. It was proof, not just of their love, but of David's clarity. Sarah grinned when he showed her. "This changes everything," she said. They can't argue he wasn't himself. Armed with the journals, Alex felt a surge of courage. He invited local artists to a makeshift open house at the manor, ignoring Margaret's furious calls. Dozens came, their voices filling the dusty halls with life. A young painter, Javier, approached Alex. "I grew up poor," he said. "A place like this would have changed my life." Alex nodded, seeing David in the moment, their shared dream taking root. But the Thompsons weren't finished. A week later, Alex found an envelope slipped under his door. Inside was a single photo, him and David kissing, taken months ago, with a note scrawled in red ink, "Leave, or this goes public." Alex stared at the photo, his pulse racing. The image was intimate. Stolen a moment from last summer when he and David had picnicked by the lake, unaware of prying eyes. The note's threat was clear. The Thompsons would weaponize their love, twisting it into scandal to force him out. He sank onto the couch, the journal still open to David's words, "He's my forever." Anger flared, drowning out fear. They wouldn't break him. He called Sarah, who arrived within the hour, her face grim as she examined the photo. "This is intimidation," she said. "Illegal and sloppy. They're desperate." She advised filing a police report. But Alex hesitated. Going public could escalate the media storm, and he wasn't ready to drag David's memory through more mud. Instead, he tucked the photo away, vowing to confront the Thompsons in court. The open house had sparked momentum. Artists volunteered to help with the manor's renovation, and a local paper ran a feature on the project, calling it David Thompson's final gift to the community. For the first time, Alex felt the narrative shifting. He spent days at the manor, hammering out plans with Clara and Javier. They envisioned a space where kids from rough backgrounds could paint, sculpt, dream exactly what David had wanted. Each nail driven into the walls felt like a stake in the ground, claiming the future. But the Thompsons struck again. Margaret appeared on a local talk show, tears in her eyes, claiming Alex had bewitched David, isolating him from family. The performance was polished, her grief convincing to those who didn't know the truth. Posts exploded, some calling for Alex to give the money back. He ignored them, focusing on the manor. But the pressure was relentless. Friends he'd made in the art community began to distance themselves, wary of the controversy. Lila stayed loyal, sneaking Alex files from David's office contracts, emails, anything that could bolster their case. One email, sent to David's lawyer months before his death, detailed his plans for the art center and named Alex as its steward. "He trusted you completely," Lila said, her voice breaking. Alex hugged her, grateful for one ally who saw him as more than a headline. The court date loomed, and Sarah prepped Alex relentlessly. "They'll paint you as a predator," she warned. Be honest, but don't let them rattle you. Alex practiced his testimony, recounting their love story, the gallery, the late-night talks, the way David's laugh could light up a room. He wasn't just fighting for the manor. He was fighting for their truth. The night before the hearing, Alex couldn't sleep. He walked to the manor, its half-finished studios glowing under moonlight. He imagined David there, smiling, proud. "I won't let them win," he whispered, the words a promise. Back home, he found another letter from David in the journal. This one dated a week before his death. "If they come for you, Alex, stand tall. Our love is your shield." The courtroom was packed. The Thompsons' lawyer, a shark in a suit. He grilled Alex, twisting every detail: his job, his age, their quick marriage into a narrative of greed. Alex stayed calm, his voice steady as he spoke of David's kindness, their shared dreams. He presented the journals, the emails, the love that no one could deny. Margaret's face twisted as the judge read David's words, her composure cracking. The hearing stretched into days, each one a battle. The Thompsons' lawyer called witnesses family friends, a former colleague who claimed David had been unstable toward the end. Sarah countered with Lila's testimony and David's meticulous plans, painting a picture of a man in full control. Alex watched the judge, a stern woman with sharp eyes, and prayed she'd see the truth. Late one night, Clara called. "The community's rallying," she said. "They're planning a protest outside the courthouse for you. For David." Alex's throat tightened. For the first time, he felt he wasn't alone. The courthouse steps buzzed with energy as Alex arrived. A small crowd holding signs, "Honor David's wish. Art for all." Clara and Javier stood at the front, their faces defiant. Alex's heart swelled. Wasn't just fighting for himself anymore. The Thompsons' lawyer sneered as he passed, but Alex ignored him, drawing strength from the crowd's support. Inside, the hearing resumed with Margaret on the stand. She spoke of family legacy, her voice quivering with rehearsed emotion. "David was vulnerable," she said. "Alex took advantage of him, isolating him from us." Sarah cross-examined her ruthlessly, exposing inconsistencies. Dates when Margaret claimed to have spoken with David that didn't match his travel records. Margaret faltered, her polished facade cracking. Alex took the stand next, his palms sweaty. The Thompsons' lawyer pounced, questioning his motives, his background. "You went from pouring coffee to inheriting millions," he said, his tone dripping with disdain. "Convenient, isn't it?" Alex met his gaze, his voice clear. "I love David. I'd trade every cent to have him back." He spoke of their life together, the quiet moments, the shared dreams, his voice breaking only when he mentioned David's laugh. The courtroom fell silent, the weight of his truth undeniable. Sarah submitted David's journals as evidence, each entry a testament to his love and clarity. The judge read them carefully, her expression unreadable. When court adjourned for the day, Alex stepped outside to cheers from the crowd. A young girl, no older than 16, handed him a sketch of the manor reimagined as an arts center. "This is for you and David," she said. Alex clutched the drawing, tears in his eyes. Back at the apartment, he found another threatening note. "Drop the case, or you'll regret it." This one included a grainy photo of him at the manor, taken from a distance. Fear prickled his skin, but he refused to back down. He called Sarah, who urged him to install security cameras. "They're scared," she said. "This means we're winning." The community's support grew, with local artists organizing a fundraiser for the Arts Center. The event, held at a nearby gallery, drew hundreds. Alex spoke briefly, his voice raw. David believed in second chances. He said, This center is his way of giving that to others. The crowd applauded. And for a moment, Alex felt David's presence, warm and steady. But the Thompsons doubled down. Richard met Alex at a park, his tone softer but no less menacing. "We'll ruin you," he said. "The media, the courts, we have resources you can't imagine." Alex stood tall, channeling David's words. "You can't erase what we had," he said. "Try all you want." The hearing's final days were grueling. Sarah presented a video David had recorded a month before his death, outlining his vision for the manor and praising Alex's heart. "He's the best of me," David said, his voice steady. The Thompsons' lawyer objected, claiming it was inadmissible, but the judge allowed it. Margaret's face crumpled as David's words filled the room, a final rebuke to her accusations. Outside, the crowd grew larger, their signs now reading, "Love wins." Alex felt their energy, a tide lifting him. He visited David's grave that night, laying the girl's sketch beside the stone. "We're almost there," he whispered. "I'm doing this for us." The judge called for closing arguments. Sarah was brilliant, weaving David's journals, emails, and video into a narrative of love and intent. The Thompsons' lawyer leaned on emotion, painting Alex as an outsider who'd stolen their legacy. Alex watched the judge, her pen moving as she took notes, and clung to hope. As the court adjourned to deliberate, Alex stepped outside, the crowd's cheers washing over him. He didn't know what the judge would decide, but he knew one thing: he'd fought for David's dream. And that was enough. The wait for the judge's ruling was agony. Alex spent days at the manor, overseeing renovations despite the uncertainty. Volunteers hammered and painted, their laughter a stark contrast to the courtroom's tension. Clara brought coffee, her smile steadying. "You're doing it," she said. "David's here in this." Alex nodded, but fear gnawed at him. What if the Thompsons won? What if David's dream was torn away? He found solace in small things, sketching again, inspired by the manor's transformation. One evening, he drew David from memory, his silver hair catching the light, his eyes warm. The act felt like a conversation, a way to keep David close. Lila dropped by, bringing more of David's files. One was a letter to the town council, written years ago, proposing an arts initiative. "He was always planning this," she said. "You're just making it real." The threats continue. Ada/Tire. Another anonymous note. "Last chance." Alex reported them to the police, who traced the notes to a private investigator hired by Richard. It wasn't enough for an arrest, but Sarah pounced, filing a motion to expose the Thompsons' tactics. "They're unraveling," she said. "Keep going." The community rallied harder. A petition for the Arts Center gained thousands of signatures, and local businesses donated supplies. At a town hall, Alex spoke, his voice stronger now. "This isn't about me," he said. "It's about a place where anyone can create, no matter who they are." The crowd cheered, and for the first time, Alex felt like he belonged. The judge's ruling came on a rainy morning. The courtroom was packed, the air heavy with anticipation. The judge, her voice measured, began, after reviewing the evidence, including David Thompson's journals, video, and documented intentions. "I find no basis for the claim of undue influence." Alex's heart leapt. The will stands as written. The estate, including the Thompson Manor, is awarded to Alexander Carter. A murmur swept the room. Margaret stood, her face pale, and walked out. Richard followed, his shoulders slumped. The cousins exchanged stunned glances. Their fight deflated. Alex sat frozen, relief crashing over him like a wave. Sarah squeezed his hand. "You did it," she whispered. Outside, the crowd erupted, their cheers echoing in the rain. Clara hugged Alex, tears mixing with the drizzle. David would be so proud, she said. Alex could only nod, his throat tight. He'd won, but the victory felt bittersweet without David to share it. The manor's transformation accelerated. Alex moved in temporarily, sleeping in a guest room as studios took shape. He hired Javier as the center's first instructor, and Clara led community outreach. The opening was set for spring, with a gala to honor David. Alex planned every detail, wanting it to reflect their lovey-a love the Thompsons had tried to erase. But Margaret wasn't done. She called, her voice icy. "You may have the manor, but you'll never be one of us." Alex didn't flinch. "I don't want to be," he said. "I'm David's, and that's enough." He hung up, feeling lighter than he had in months. The night before the gala, Alex walked the manor's halls, now vibrant with art. He paused at a portrait he'd painted of David, hung in the main gallery. "We did it," he whispered. The silence felt like an answer, warm and steady. The gala was a triumph. Hundreds came, artists, locals, even some of David's old clients. Alex spoke briefly, his voice breaking as he thanked David for believing in him. The crowd applauded, and for the first time, Alex felt the weight of judgment lift. He was no longer the gold digger, the outsider. He was David's husband, carrying their dream forward. The Art Center's opening marked a new chapter, but Alex couldn't shake the quiet ache of David's absence. The manor buzzed with life, kids painting in the studios, musicians rehearsing in the courtyard, Clara leading workshops, but every corner held memories of David's voice, his touch. Alex threw himself into the work, teaching classes and curating exhibits. But late at night, he'd sit with David's journals, tracing the words that kept him grounded. The Thompsons faded from public view, their influence waning as the community embraced the center. Margaret sent one final letter, a cold apology for misunderstandings. But Alex didn't respond. He'd won their war, not with hate, but with love. David's love, now etched into every brushstroke in the manor. Javier became a close friend, his humor a balm for Alex's grief. One day, he dragged Alex to a local bar, insisting he needed a break. "David wouldn't want you moping," Javier said, sliding him a beer. Alex laughed, the sound foreign but welcome. He started to heal, slowly, finding joy in the center's small victories, a shy teen's first sculpture, a veteran finding solace in watercolors. The media storm died down, replaced by stories of the center's impact. A national magazine featured it, calling it a testament to love and resilience. Alex framed the article, hanging it beside David's portrait. He began painting again, his work bolder, infused with the colors of their life together. At an exhibit, a buyer offered thousands for a Paisaia stormy sea, like the painting where they'd met. Alex sold it, donating the money to the center. But healing wasn't linear. Some days, grief hit like a tidal wave. On David's birthday, Alex drove to the coast, to the spot where they dreamed of retiring. He scattered wildflower seeds, a quiet tribute. "I miss you," he said to the wind, "but I'm keeping our promise." The center grew, drawing artists from across the state. Alex hired more staff, including Lila, who ran the outreach program with fierce dedication. They launched a scholarship in David's name, funding art classes for low-income kids. At the first ceremony, a girl named Mia, whose sketches rivaled Alex's at her age, hugged him. "Thank you," she said. "This place saved me." Alex's eyes stung, seeing David's legacy in her smile. The Thompsons made one last movie, a quiet offer to buy the manor back. Alex met Richard at a neutral office, his face impassive. "Name your price," Richard said. Alex leaned forward, his voice steady. "It's not for sale. It's David's. And it's mine." Richard left without a word, and Alex knew it was over. By winter, the center was thriving. Alex stood in the main gallery, watching snow fall outside. He felt David in the quiet, in the laughter echoing from the studios. He'd kept their dream alive, proving the whispers wrong. But more than that, he'd found his own strength, forged in love and loss. One evening, Clara handed him a letter from a donor, an older man who'd known David. "He'd be proud of you," it read. "You've given his heart a home." Alex tucked it into David's journal, his fingers lingering on the pages. He wasn't just surviving anymore. He was living for David, for himself, for the community they'd built. Spring brought new life to the manor. The gardens bloomed with wildflowers, a nod to the seeds Alex had scattered at the coast. The Arts Center was now a beacon, drawing visitors from beyond Connecticut. Alex walked its halls daily, greeting students, mentoring artists, and feeling David's presence in every corner. The weight of the past year, the whispers, the threats, the courtroom battles had settled into something softer, a scar that told a story of love unbroken. He expanded the center's programs, adding music and theater classes. At a community performance, Mia took the stage, her voice trembling as she read a poem about finding her place. Alex sat in the back, tears falling. This was what David had wanted, a space where everyone belonged, no matter their story. He clapped until his hands hurt, pride swelling for the girl who reminded him of himself. The Thompsons' shadow faded entirely. Margaret moved to Boston, and Richard focused on his business, their fight forgotten. The town, once divided, now rallied around the center. Local shops displayed students' art, and the mayor attended the center's first anniversary gala, praising its impact. Alex stood on the manor's steps that night, addressing the crowd. "This is David's legacy," he said, his voice steady. "But it's also ours, every one of you who believed in it." After the gala, Javier pulled Alex aside. "You're not just running this place," he said. "You're building a family." Alex smiled, realizing it was true. The center had given him purpose, a community, a way to carry David forward. He started dating again, cautiously. A musician named Sam who understood his grief and shared his passion for art. It wasn't David, but it was a new kind of warmth, a step toward living again. One quiet afternoon, Alex found a sketch David had drawn, a rough outline of the manor as an arts center, with a note, "For Alex, my heart's home." He framed it, hanging it in his office beside their wedding photo. The gesture felt like closure, a final gift from David to carry him forward. The center's second year brought national recognition. A documentary crew filmed its story, interviewing Alex, Clara, and the students. When asked about the gold digger rumors, Alex laughed softly. "They didn't know us," he said. "They didn't know love." The documentary aired, and messages poured in, people inspired by their story, by David's vision, by Alex's resilience. On the anniversary of David's death, Alex held a quiet ceremony at the center. Students lit candles, each sharing what the place meant to them. Mia spoke last, her voice strong. "This place taught me I'm enough," she said. Alex looked at the flickering lights, feeling David's spirit in the room. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. The center was his voice, their love made tangible. As summer approached, Alex planned a new exhibit, Love in Color, showcasing works inspired by personal stories. His own piece, a vibrant painting of two hands intertwined against a stormy sea, anchored the show. Visitors lingered, some crying, some smiling. A critic wrote, Alexander Carter paints with the heart of a man who's loved deeply and fought fiercely. Standing in the gallery, Alex felt whole. The whispers were gone, replaced by the hum of creation, the laughter of students, the legacy of a love that had defied every doubt. He'd been called a gold digger, an outsider, a thief, but in the end, he was David's husband, the keeper of their dream. And that was enough.